What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Now it's head-to-head competition between WWE and AEW, at least for half an hour, as the blue brand goes up against AEW Rampage. What will they do to compete with Rampage's first hour, and how will they hype next week's crown jewel? Well, join us now as we look at this week's edition of Smackdown, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including Roman Reigns destroys CM Punk, the Fiend is coming back, AEW and WWE ripping each other off, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now, as always, we won't recap the matches, but just provide you with the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, Edge's chilling call out. And while the WWE has been criticized for its pathetic promos, that's never the case when Edge gets on the mic, and in all fairness, he's not alone in delivering strong statements, he's just the best. To quote a commercial from the ancient 80s, when Edge talks, people listen, and that's exactly what you expect from a wrestler talking trash or promising vengeance. What's perhaps the most interesting part of Edge's promo is that the fans have heard them before. Edge is looking for revenge after an opponent hospitalized him, attacked the sanctity of his family, or run over the family mutt. Nevertheless, the rated R superstar knows how to deliver dialogue that seems very fresh. Edge's promos are both believable and meaningful. Just another reason why the WWE did well by bringing Edge back into the ring, and while some fans may feel there are too many legends parading around, this Hall of Famer always delivers in the ring and on the mic. Number 2, a brilliant battle. Becky Lynch vs Sasha Banks, a main event in any arena and a match fans have seen many times since the Boss returned to the blue brand. While this bout was as well wrestled as their previous encounter, it differed by having a conclusive finish rather than the lame non-finishes of the last few weeks. Now, not every match has to have a conclusive finish, but the WWE utilizes far too many wonky endings, particularly in its women's matches. You can be certain they didn't want to run around another Becky vs Banks match, especially going head to head with Rampage, and then rob the fans by providing a false finish. Number 3, 2.5 hours of bliss. Now, we're not talking about Alexa Bliss, but a 2.5 hour show that went by fast, and unlike most Raw episodes, it didn't feel laborious. Raw has shown that it can run entertaining 3-hour shows, but it's rarer than Ricochet getting another push. Could the WWE be testing the possibility of airing a third hour of Smackdown on FS1 in order to interfere with Rampage? While it's not as easy to do as it may sound, as Fox would not be happy if Smackdown reserved its best segments for a third hour, AEW may have reason to be concerned as its Friday night shows continue to tumble in the ratings. Number 4, Carmella doesn't advance. Now, we are a little bit wrong for taking satisfaction in Carmella failing to advance to Queen's Crown Finals. Well, we have nothing against Carmella, but a push is not reflective of her talent. Obviously, someone in the WWE is a big fan of her, as she is a competent worker at best, but she gets pushes left, right, and center. Carmella would have fit in well during the Divas era, but as mediocre as today's women's undercard is, she has no business being a featured player on either undercard or the main event. And Brock's big bombshell. A last night's contract signing was a reminder that these types of segments don't have to degenerate into a knockdown brawl, but there are other ways to utilize them. Last night's segment featured a confident challenger sitting with his boots on the table while he watched the Universal Champion sign the contract alongside his tribal counsel Paul Heyman. The scintillating segment continued as Lesnar signed the contract without even looking it over, leading to Rawls calling the Beast a dumbass and a dumb farmer for not reading it. Lesnar then replied that he's read it over in the morning with his advocate Paul Heyman. It left Reigns speechless and the fans wondering what dangerous game Heyman is playing. There are many means of advancing storylines, and last night's big bombshell by Brock was a great example of how to do it. But that was good. What about the bad? Is number 1 a predictable pin? Was anyone surprised that Finn Balor defeated Sami Zayn to advance the King of the Ring finals in Saudi Arabia? Not if you know that Zayn is persona non grata in the country due to the Saudi government allegedly having a bug up its butt about Zayn's politics and his Syrian heritage. Despite savvy fans knowing the outcome, the two did have a terrific match, but still they should have penciled in a different opponent for Balor in order to maintain some sort of suspense. Number 2, Naomi's bittersweet loss. Our fans looking for a one-on-one match between Naomi and Sonya Deville were in for a disappointment, as a WWE authority figure pulled a fast one on Naomi, making their match into a handicap match with Shayna Baszler aiding Deville. It was a classic case of an authority figure sticking it to a babyface, but sadly nothing original. On a brighter note, the WWE did utilize Baszler better as she plays a much better heel than a babyface. Number 3, Jinder Mahal's winning streak. King Jinder, it has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? But pushing Mahal has always been problematic as he's injury prone and the WWE is wildly inconsistent with pushing him. In fact, the name Maharaja also indicates that he's some sort of king anyway, or at least a prince. Putting the crown on Mahal is a bad idea and we're hoping WWE comes to its senses. Now, there was nothing downright ugly about last night's show, with the special expanded edition of Smackdown serving as an excellent go-home show for Crown Jewel, as the WWE furthered the intrigue concerning Paul Heyman's allegiance, made Naomi a sympathetic character in a handicap match, and providing an entertaining 2.5 hours of wrestling. For example, while the Usos won over the Street Profits was predictable, the two teams delivered in the ring as always. The show featured a surprisingly short number of matches, but everything came together between the promos, backstage segments, matches, and of course, the big contract signing. But what did you guys think of SmackDown last night? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Now our first story looks at Roman Reigns destroying CM Punk. Now it looks like the ongoing war of words between WWE and AEW has gone nuclear as Roman Reigns recently roasted CM Punk during an interview with Complex. The current Universal Champ was asked what he thought about Punk's work in AEW and what would happen if somehow the two stars clashed in the ring. If our audience wanted to see it and they were clamoring for it, couldn't shut up about it and all the stars aligned, as a businessman and as a performer who was trying to seek out the very best for the audience and try to captivate, I wouldn't say no, but I mean on a personal level, it doesn't do anything for me. That's not going to elevate me at all. He's older now. I haven't really seen a full match, I've seen a clip or two, and to me, a step or two has been lost. Reigns then went on to address the physical differences between him and Punk, including Punk's poor performance in UFC. Then also he got his ass whooped in UFC. I don't think anybody really believes someone 200 pounds soaking wet with no explosive bone in their body could ever really do anything to me. I'm 6'3", 265 pounds, a legitimate athlete who can throw some weight around and has been on the gridiron at highest level, D1, all ACC. I probably would have maintained in the NFL if my health issues didn't happen when I was 22 years old. So I mean, when it comes down to it, I'll throw him and pretty much the rest of the roster out the club no problem. They're just little brothers, you know? Now obviously Reigns isn't going to put Punk over or anyone else in AEW, as part of his job as Universal Champion is to toe the company line. The reality however is that there's stars in AEW and the WWE that could likely stretch either company's muscle heads into pretzels in a shoot. What do you think of Reigns' comments on CM Punk? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Don Callis' clever comeback to Roman Reigns. Now it didn't take long for someone in AEW to respond to Reigns' criticism of AEW. Don Callis, who has been seen in the Elite's entourage every week, tweeted about Reigns' comments saying, "Must be free Kool-Aid Day at the Stanford Supermax." Next up, Tony Khan talks Elite AEW pay-per-view spoilers. Fans are still talking about the rumors that a photograph of AEW President Tony Khan may have inadvertently leaked the matches for AEW's upcoming Full Gear pay-per-view. In case you missed it, Khan was caught on camera at the Jacksonville Jaguars game carrying a notebook some fans believe had the card for Full Gear on it. Khan discussed the situation on Busted Open Radio, explaining, "I was doodling on my notebook and I saw a lot of people took notice of the notes in my notebook, which is pretty amazing because when you're walking around with full notes, you never think photographers are going to capture the small writing you've written down. I'm glad it wasn't anything more personal." Some fans think Khan is working the fans, but he pointed out, "It's funny that people run with the assumptions on the internet these days. I've seen all these people jumping to conclusions that, oh, that must be the Full Gear card. It is true, I announced that Kenny Omega vs Hangman is the main event that we've all been waiting for with Full Gear. It's going to be a huge pay-per-view. It is absolutely booked." Next up, Bray Wyatt tweets about his non-compete clause expiring. A former WWE superstar, Bray Wyatt, is keeping fans in suspense concerning his status as a free agent. Rotunda posted a picture of his WWE alter ego, The Fiend, along with the message, "Don't worry, I'll feed you baby birds. Hashtag Cult of Wyndham." Wyndham's use of the Cult of Wyndham hashtag has fans wondering what's next for the creative wrestler. And finally, the wrestling war on social media takes a twin turn. And last but not least, the social media war between AEW and WWE took a bizarre turn last night when both promotions posted shockingly similar social media posts. AEW Wrestling on TNT posted, "For every 300 likes, we will increase the size of Bryan Danielson's beard before AEW Rampage." The WWE then posted, "For every 250 likes, Sami Zayn's hair gets bigger." Is this the evidence of WWE ripping off AEW? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.